I told you, dating's a topic of mass confusion. How many would agree? Come on, be honest, get those hands up. And the rest of you can, and if you don't think it's confusing, then you can enlighten the rest of us. Oh, okay. You dated her before you got married, right? Okay. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Okay, now, let me talk about the mass confusion. I'm going to call this one date or no date. This confusion really goes back to my Navy days. You know, they said that enlisted people weren't allowed to date officers. I said, for crying out loud, what is a caste system? I thought this is why we fought the revolution, to be free from that kind of tyranny. So I'm in a Navy Rights and Responsibility class, and topic comes up again about fraternization, dating, and all that blah, blah, blah. So I said, all right, I have a question for you. What's a date? I didn't get the same answer twice. Well, it's a date if you're out of uniform. It's a date if you leave the ship or the command and go ashore. I said, well, gee, you know, they're saying that we weren't allowed to date each other, but they never really came up with a clear-cut definition on what a date is. Well, I'm not going to lie, I bent the rules a couple years later. I was at a singles group in Pensacola. There's a young naval officer. I didn't even work for her. We weren't even stationed together. We lived in the same apartment complex, and I invited her out to supper at Po Folks. We both thought of the same thing. If anybody asks, it's a singles outing. I thought of that independently, by the way. Nobody cared. Nobody asked. Okay, that was my big flaw. It was years ago. Welcome to the human race, right? About the rules. Hope God forgives me for that one. Years go on, and I'm up in Connecticut, and I invited a gal out for lunch at church. She said, hey, you want to hang out after church? I said, okay, fine. She didn't ask me if I wanted to go on a date. She said, just want to hang out. We go to a Ponderosa restaurant, and here I'm just trying to be nice. Hey, I get whatever order you want. I'll pick up the tab. She yells out real loud, I'm on a date! I'm thinking, for crying out loud, am I your first one? Did you want to call CNN so we could broadcast this? Yeah. Years go on, I moved back to Florida. And I go to, I asked to get out to Perkins. Let's go to Perkins for a cup of coffee. So we drove in separate cars. It was Christmas time, and I'm feeling generous. So I get out of the car. I says, hey, I'll treat you to dessert. He says, oh, it's not a date. Okay, I understand. We sat there and talked for 2.5 hours after she told me that, though. I think she's trying to tell herself it wasn't a date. Well, the years go on, and this time I'm meeting some friends. We're gonna go meet at a restaurant. It was a foursome, 2 guys, 2 gals, nice combination. Spent a good part of the afternoon getting ready for it. And I'm thinking, gee, I don't know what I'm doing tonight. Am I just hanging out with my friends? Is it a foursome, or is it a double date? Whew. I meet my friends at the restaurant. We get out of, we're all sitting together at the table, and I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. If I offer to pay right away, I don't want her to tell me it's not a date. But I don't want her to think I'm a cheapskate either. What am I gonna do? Waitress gives us the menus, and for about 10 minutes, the silence was deafening. And then, the silence broke. She points to the menu. All right, Ed, here's what I want. I want this appetizer and this dinner. Who lit your fire, girlfriend? That answered my first question. I'm buying dinner. Good thing I went to the ATM machine earlier that afternoon. And after dinner, I was at the candy kitchen. I bought candy, and then we went to play miniature golf. I paid for all that. Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. She walks up to me after, oh, when the game's over, Ed, will you buy me an icy? And I'm thinking, geez, I've been trying to break the ice all night. So why not? The icy costs $3, by the way. Now, the last time I had an icy, they were called coolies, and you could buy one for 10 cents. If that's what if that tells you how old I am. Date or no date? I'm still confused.